Starbow time, baby! We're in a game. Here's my face so you know that this isn't some fake show. But we're analyzing this wonderful game between Franskar and Teddy Bear, and at this mid-game juncture, while Franskar is applying pressure, we're seeing a very clean example of what I was talking about with building units like the Hydralisk. You have to justify it. And the easiest way to justify anything is to take a base or to kill a base. Teddy Bear, by a similar token, is starting to transition to the juicier, beefier units, the Dragoon. What is this, the Tunneling Claws? Oh yeah, burrowed units can move. All burrowed units. Tunneling Claws says, drones, queens, zerglings, hydralisks, defilers, and ultralisks can move slowly while burrowed. Pretty powerful, right? I'd say yeah, but I don't think that that's ever the important component to really any strategy in a strategy game, is what the little tiny nuanced things do. So in my eyes, when I'm looking at this, when I'm seeing Franskar make this sort of push, make this sort of play, I'm really happy that he's managing to sort of bash down the front door, but he needs to be establishing and taking these expansions. It's a really important thing. He's adding on these extra bases. I think you can support a 5th hatch right now, or to have supported a 5th hatch earlier. So, alright, at the 12 minute mark, I want to take a look at the map and talk on two axes. One is the big long-term strategy. If I'm Teddy Bear, I'm going to be chilling on 3 bases till I can build up a huge force and attack while I take a 4th base. That is going to be the simple, correct play. I'm not saying it's the only correct play, but it's definitely going to be a correct play. Or to take this expansion here as a 4th, something like that. Now Zerg, on the other hand, the big strategy needs to be to establish a 5th in somewhere that implies extra bases. Like this is a 5th. To take these 2 is good. This is a 5th is okay, but it doesn't really claim these 2 bases. This is probably the strongest 5th. So if I were Zerg, I would have wanted to go this, and then this is a 5th, or this, and this is a 5th. The only other type of 5th expansion play that I like, given this one, is the opposite corner base. Because what's our late game play? Counterattack focused, defense focused. I like that a lot. So we talked about the big long-term strategy, and what's also just as critical is the stepping stones. I think there could have been more drones built and an extra hatch snuck in. Economy-wise, I think that's absolutely possible. And if I were doing the exact same build order ideas, Franskar, that would probably be my first location of research. But until then, Franskar is going to be applying to pressure, baby. And I think this is pretty typical of pretty much any player who's doing an aggressive move, is to have a combo econ defense move. Lurkers and drones. All Hydras for offense, and then lurkers and drones, baby. Lurkers are a defensive unit, P.S. Really good for defense. Obviously, they're totally fine for offense, but they're really, really, really good for defense. Moving the lurkers forward. Amazing. Great. But a defensive play. So we see all the other notable upgrades, like getting the range upgrade for Dragoons. Solid. So it looks like Franskar is kind of spreading himself out. This is the one issue I have with getting too big of an army. You gotta continue to do a lot with it. Otherwise, it just feels kind of dirtily and useless. Moves like this, I don't mind at all. Taking a little bit of damage, picking some units off, continuing to apply pressure. Now here's a move I didn't understand at first. This army, actually let me rewind to the 16-minute mark. So, what are, like, I'm going to speak at the conceptual level and the specific level. So conceptually speaking, it would be great if Teddy Bear, now that he has his 3rd up, if he could apply some pressure while he establishes a big death army. He needs a lot more Dragoons before this is an intimidating death army. He doesn't have enough range damage. So, okay, cool. That would be great. But we don't want to just march, what is it, 17 zealots off to their death. When I saw this, I was like, dude, what are you doing? Ordinarily, I'd be like, oh my god, kill me, this is so bad. But I completely forgot about this rift ability. Teleport up to 5 ground units to the Nexus. How delightful. Teddy Bear can move out with the fastest units he has and harass a base, and then pull everything back at the last second. When is Teddy Bear doing that? After he has Storm, after he has some Archons, and an oodle set of Dragoons. Teddy Bear also identified that Franskar had half his army down here. And this is a perfect opportunity to expand. Right now is perfect. As this is going on, one of two things is going to happen. This expansion is going to die, and these set of units are going to be pushing somewhere in here, and then we have kind of a battle. But no big deal. We end it on 3 base versus 3 base. Or all the rest of these units are going to run over, and they're going to defend, and that gives us time to expand. So whenever there's going to be either a confrontation or a distraction, these guys should be moving out to expand. So here's the Lurkers actually deal a lot of damage. But this kills off the base, there's the recall back home, great. But this expand, I'm looking at this and I'm like, dude, this expand could have gone down at 16 minutes. Because if there's one thing I will always pressure every player to do, it's to expand as much as humanly frickin' possible. Especially if, what's the Zerg strategy? To expand a lot in the mid-game. In the mid-game, Zerg tends to have control. Zerg tends to be able to shove forward with Hydralisk, to be able to contain with Lurkers, to get good positions, and it's only when the Protoss has a big death army like this that he can move out and do scary things. That really sucks to lose all those Banelings. Banelings do something completely different in this game, but I will talk about it much later. Lurkers spreading out to dodge storms, and a very bad angle for Protoss right here. Now when I say bad angle, typically I think bad angle for most people is just a local comment. Here's a whole bunch of Zerg units. Actually, let me change the way that these work. Controls, gameplay, not damage. Let me go to selected. Like, these Zerg units here have a much better concave than these Protoss units here. So I would look at that, and I would just pretty typically say, okay, well, locally, yeah, Protoss is in a bad angle. But the most important thing to me is that when I look at this, I ask, what expansion does this defend? This battle could have equivalently gone left and then down, and as it was going down, this expansion would have been completely free. Alright. So we're starting to see the Protoss player kind of begin to take an expansion. I think that this expo could have gone down at 16 minutes, maybe 17 with a little extra movement. But I look at Teddy Bear, and I say, Teddy Bear, I want you to have more bases. I want you to have more follow-up. The core strategy that we're seeing out of Teddy Bear, composition-wise, is great. Zealot Archon, followed up by going for some sort of Dragoon. Should probably shut my window at some point. But anyways, yeah, so, I mean, composition-wise is totally great, but bases, I'm always eager to take bases. However, on Team Franskar's front, this is a very late 5th. Very, very, very late 5th. And this 4th was killed off, so if I'm Franskar, I'm going to be a little bit like, ugh. What do I do to follow up? I think the #1 goal for the Zerg player in this position is to say, long term, if I can just shut my opponent out of a 4th, or make this a nightmare for him, I can get away with 5 very efficient bases. And a very efficient play is Zergling Hydra, Lurker, with some Defilers. A very Defiler-focused play. So great, love it. Franskar. What were these Hydralisks doing early? They were pressuring, they were buying time for expansions. But late game, well, these guys are getting trapped, and that sucks. But late game, these Hydralisks don't really get to do very much. They're just trying to find opportunities to shut down bases. As these Hydralisks pull right over here, more Zerg units can scout up over here and just investigate and check up on this. Alright, so if I'm Franskar, I'm like, nice. Where's the 4th? Where's the 4th? Here's the #1 candidate for the 4th because he just had his army there. We see the Defilers with Dark Swarm and the Lurkers being able to defend. Here's where I'm going to do a little bit of Brood War history. If you had no idea what a Defiler does, well, you're about to wish it was in StarCraft 2 because it's so good. Zerg... Oh, well, let me see if this is a true statement. I think Zerg probably had the best late-game defense in Brood War. And it was because of the Lurker and the Defiler. But especially the Defiler. So Defiler has one key ability, Dark Swarm. Anything under Dark Swarm... What does this say? Oh, wait. Oh, okay, never mind. It is the same. So, anything under Dark Swarm takes 0 damage from ranged. Anything under Dark Swarm takes 0 damage from ranged attacks. Lurkers count as a melee attack. I don't know why, that's just the way that it was in Brood War. Lurkers count as a melee attack. So if you Dark Swarm Lurkers, the only thing that can hurt them is Zealots and Storm. Now here's an attack. Here's what I'm talking about. See this attack right here? Now, this attack's making a lot more sense because there's an expansion behind it. Really love that. Really loving that attack. Expanding behind the attacks. Oh, yeah. Here's the Dark Swarm. Immediate retreat on this army. Great. Nothing wrong with just chilling. Nothing wrong with that. This, I saw, when I saw in this game, I did this. I was, so, as many of you know, I work at Artillery Games. I go there in the morning, around 10 a.m., stay there till 6, drive home, then I do the show. So I'm preparing this show at the office, and I see Teddy Bear take this 5th expansion right here, and I just go, "Ah, oh, Teddy Bear!" And everyone just looks at me because they have no context at all. They have no idea why I'm making this noise. Now, I think that this makes a lot of sense for Teddy Bear to want a 5th base. He had a hard time getting a 4th, so he may as well get a 4th and a 5th. Am I right? These 2 expansions are the most recently taken expansions for Protoss on the map, and they are the 2 farthest points from each other. So I was just like, oh, Teddy Bear, no. This automatically gives a big window of opportunity for Franskar, because right now I would give a heavy edge to Teddy Bear. Were I Teddy Bear, I would not have taken this. I would have just taken this base, and I would have tried to continue to apply pressure along these veins. This vein here, and this vein here. Because these things are very far apart for the Zerg. I mean, Zerg has to throw down Dark Swarms and Lurkers, and then run this way and run up and throw down Dark Swarm and Lurkers, and then run this way and run back and throw down Dark Swarm and Lurkers. This is one of the cool things about when immobile units and immobile effects like Dark Swarm are the linchpins to defense. The fact that they're immobile means that you can just take a mobile army and hit 2 points until 1 cracks. So cool, just going back and forth and back and forth. And then you have really easy rally points. You rally here, which is still enough time to get up to this 3rd base, but it covers the 4th and gives you a window of opportunity to take a 5th down here. And if I'm in Franskar's shoes, look at this. Franskar, I think, is playing perfectly right now. Okay, I saw an army in mid. Here's what I was talking about the late game Zerg vs. Protoss. Zerglings, really efficient. Counterattack with them. Lurker Defiler. Use those for defense. Great. So now we see these Zealots moving along the right side. Excuse me, along the top side. And here's where I want to express what I don't know. This Nexus Rift that lets you recall these Nexuses once you've built this penis hat on top of the Nexus. That is a critical changer for strategy. So you can upgrade the Kadaran Citadel to give to put the penis on the Nexus, and then to be able to use this sort of rift ability. And I don't know how that will affect army splitting, but no doubt Protoss should be much, much more aggressive. I would be insane if I were Protoss with these counterattacks, trying to shut stuff off. This small attack on this right side, why is it working? Because these Zerglings, look how far top left they're pulled. It's pulling the entire army of Teddy Bear over here. Teddy Bear, with his little cotton paws, is losing control. Love the huge number of cannons. Love it. Dark Swarm goes down. That's going to help out the Zealot and the DT a lot. Dark Swarm originally to kill off cannons. Isolated units getting picked off by the Zealot Hydra Clump. We see again a Zealot Hydra Clump trying to move up to this top side, trying to exploit the fact that Teddy Bear has to bounce back and forth between this location and this location again and again. Here's where I am going to talk about the Baneling. Right during the middle of one of its glorious explosions. That's a really nice particle effect. Look at how much detail's there. Jesus. How do computers run this? It's an incredible amount of detail. Okay, here's what Banelings do. Banelings in Starbow today make enemy units and structures take extra damage for each Baneling that's exploded. So right now this gateway has been hit with a Baneling hit, so it says this unit takes 2 extra damage per attack received. So if I hit it with like 5 Banelings, it'll take plus 10 damage per hit, making stuff die a lot faster. So we see a couple things here. The importance of just leaving Templar here. I love this when a player leaves a couple of inexpensive units, comparatively speaking. Inexpensive units to deal a lot of damage to incoming attacks. So here's the shape that I'm looking at Teddy Bear and I'm like, wow, this is really nice. If I'm Zerg, I'm getting mined at in my main and my natural and my third. And I'm wondering if there's a nice way to just have a steady stream of new resources. I only got 2 bases coming. Protoss has a healthy third and a healthy fourth. So now we're starting to really see why 6th bases are critical. Let me actually pull back a moment before this Zergling attack occurred, so we can see some of the really nice, sexy tactics that Franskar is using. Because what do we big long-term play for Franskar? Have super solid defense, which is here. Dark Swarm and Lurkers. Very solid, very hard to break. Distracting the army, taking out the attempt at a 5th. Army pulls over this way. It's pulling up. It's a little closer to this 3rd base. We see the Zealot army moving over here. Here's the encounter. Remember that Dark Swarm Hydra army? Well, cool. Now that Franskar's got the distraction down, he can attack this side. I keep hitting spacebar for pause because I've been using VLC too much. But right here at this pause moment, here's where the attack's happening. Right here, this one. And look at this movement on the left side. Now, to be fair, Franskar can't see what his enemy's doing, but that doesn't make this less effective. Here's the movement up. We see the big army moving down. Here's that Baneling Hydra army getting ready to move in. Again, if I'm Zerg, I'm like, dude, how do I punish this guy for taking the 4th base? Teddy Bear is kind of going down mid. Now look in mid-map. Here's the attack. It pulls left. Then there's a Zergling force here that's going to drill in. Could have maybe drilled a little sooner, but the idea is more important than the exacting execution. Cuts over this one. Ah, it's so cool. Notice the target firing of the Nexus. That's really going to make a Protoss defensive. So as much as I like this teddy bear attack and think it's a strong composition, mostly Dragoons, stepping forward, trying to be aggressive, it's not coordinating with this expansion as much. So we kind of have these odd splits of units, but that's okay. I think that Teddy Bear is well aware of the position he's in. He starts to pull it back. Oh my god, Teddy Bear did something that I was not commenting on. This counterattack at the bottom right from DTs that were warped in there just to kill this off. It's so awesome. I'm going to take a brief moment to express two things that I'm enjoying. One is that there's not a lot of technical detail going on here that's unique to Starbow. There's not crazy new units or crazy new abilities. I mean, there's still Templar with Storm and Dragoons that are kind of like strong stalkers. There's Zealots, there's Lings, there's Hydras. And that's about it. And yet, the pretty pieces that we get to see are that simply having Lurkers and Defilers puts Zerg in a very good position defensively, but in a weak position offensively. A Dark Swarm that goes down here can't continue to travel into a base. It's stuck right here. A Lurker that's burrowed, dealing a lot of damage, is stuck right here. It can't advance. So what this means is that seizing territory and expansions is much more important than does my army beat his army. Deathball versus Deathball doesn't even happen. Not even a consideration, honestly. And seizing territory and applying pressure is amazing. In terms of that seizing of territory, one could maybe argue, shouldn't this Defiler Ling force maybe advance to here, set up a position, and drill this? I think that's only significant if there's 5 or more bases. When it's locked down to 4, that's not a lot of space. Meh. What I'm really saying is that I kind of want to go play Starbow. Wait a minute, why is Franskar attacking here? Yeah, because Franskar sees the damn army up there. He saw it with a scout a second ago, so he's going to attack the other, more vulnerable location. And down it goes, down the hatch. So here's the position that would cause me to describe my unbelievable frustration with playing Zerg against Protoss late game in SC1 in Brood War. I've killed off bases. If you look at the units lost tab, yeah, maybe lost a little more, but I shut him out of this base. He's just now getting this one established. I'm awesome, right? Unfortunately, without a strong base count, here's the position of Zerg's in. You know how I said it was really important to have a strong expansion set in the mid-game? You feel it right now. I know we're at the 30-minute mark, but the decision to be able to secure bases must be happening closer to the 15 or 20-minute mark. These bases are not running really hot, and we haven't secured the positions for the other key bases. Without those positions secured, it's very, very, very hard to have a comfortable late game. So our Protoss player is starting to get ready to push. Again, I would slightly prefer a push down this way towards this expansion, as it appropriately defends this top left base. But this is fine too. Oftentimes it's a more nuanced cost-benefit analysis. This base was built long ago, so it's half mined out. But this one, not only is it more fresh, but Zerg might try to take this. Imagine the Zerg here. If I let Zerg take this, what's his next expansion choice? Here? No, that's way too close to my base. So if I can shut Zerg out here, he's basically done. So I can understand the importance of wanting to take this base out. So I'm going to pause at 29 minutes, boom, right before the big attack. And when we return, we're going to watch the ending of this game and see how either Teddy Bear or Franskar closes it out. But the big thing that I'd emphasize is that in Part 2 we saw at the beginning Franskar wasn't quite seizing the important expansions in territory that you really need to as a Zerg player who has access to these Brood War units. Protoss player, roughly great, right? Just trying to take a 4th base, and then a 5th, and trying to make attack positionings. We see the attacks that work best are the ones that defend the expansion on the backside. We see the ones that create vulnerability look kind of like this, where the force is here, and the most new expansion is up here. But that said, this particular play seems okay, but we're starting to see when the attacks are working and when they're not. We talked a little bit about the specific Starbow mechanics that might allow for more interesting timings. But the big thing that we're seeing is how critical these positioning things are. And with the extremely strong Zerg defense, there's a lot of really interesting expansion-based decisions. So when we come back, how does Franskar and Teddy Bear close it out? Who will win? We just don't know. We'll be back.